guys, how are you guys doing? I hope everyone is great. Nathan here and my lovely wife,
Nancy.
Yeah, and we're here bringing you guys our first of our midnight sessions. You're like, wait a second, it's not midnight.
I know.
It's
broad daylight.
Bright daylight. Well, let me tell you a little bit of how these midnight sessions came to be. We've been in isolation or quarantine now for 7
weeks.
7 weeks,
Yes.
right? And in those 7 weeks, like you guys, we're bored.
Very.
We've been locked in our house with our 2 girls.
Only with our children.
That's it.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but those little conversations can only take us so long.
We can only learn so much about Bluey and whoever else is on TV right now.
And we're done with those conversations.
We're ready for adult conversations.
Exactly. So
yes.
we were awake one night at around midnight.
It was late.
And just for fun, we said,
let's see who's awake.
Let's see who's on live.
Yeah.
So we went live, and we had about 15, 17 friends.
Right. That all joined together with us because assuming they were under the same circumstances.
We don't sleep.
No.
And so just jokingly, we said, hey, let's meet again tomorrow. And we met again the next day, and then, we had to take a break because I need my sleep. But when we met again, they said, hey, let's do this on a regular basis. And we're going to call it Midnight Hangs with the Salcedos.
With the Salcedos, yes.
And so one of our friends, Lucas, said, hey, just send me a picture. I'm going to make you guys a graphic. And they made us a graphic. We started posting it, and people started joining on these midnights. Midnight
and they got pretty serious.
They did, right?
Yeah.
They hit the heart,
yeah.
too, right? And good.
Yeah, they were great. Great talks, great adult conversation, and a lot to learn from, a lot of insight. So it was wonderful. And
so from these midnight talks, like my wife was just saying, these talks got intense. They got really heart heavy. Mm-hmm. And so the next day somebody would say, one of our friends would say, hey, can you guys just like post them on Instagram so we can watch them? And we said, well, one of the rules of our midnight crew is that we don't record and save them. Why? Because we pour out our hearts. Yeah. And there's a lot of personal stories for each of us, and then personal stories from our friends that were on Instagram. And we said, well, we don't want to do that. So we asked our friends, hey, is it okay if we share some of your stories? And you guys said, go ahead, share the story.
That's okay, yeah.
Right? You don't say my name.
Right.
And just say this is what happened. Exclude name. Or we'll put fake names, right? Juanito or Doña Juana or something like that. And we'll go ahead and do that and share these stories with you. So in our conversation, our Midnight Hangs, we started talking about some really, really positive, but gut-wrenching, soul-searching, heart-pounding
from the heart
messages.
Right.
And we want to share some of those with you guys because I think, and from what we've heard from our friends, is that this will really be beneficial to a lot of people that are out there.
It will, yes. Even to us. I mean, we've learned so much from the people that we've spoken to and from those that have shared their stories with us that have really impacted our lives.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've grown a lot. And so I just hope that in these sessions that we give you guys, that you guys will be able to just get something, even if it's just a word or two or a new phrase or anything, like a new way of doing something. I think that would be helpful.
Just like we received something from it, I'm sure that you guys will receive something.
Yeah, so hey, let's jump into our first midnight session here in broad daylight. But let's jump into our first midnight session. And we're talking about community.
Yes.
How important is community?
Very important.
Well, it's something that we knew community was important.
Right.
But from these talks here and digging into the word and digging more into community, we really started to understand how big community is.
Right. Even people say it takes a village, right?
Yeah, community is so important.
It's very important. Who you surround yourself with, who's speaking into your life.
Right. So in this time of quarantine, as youth pastors, me and my wife are youth pastors here in San Diego, and in this entire time, we've had to become real intentional in building community because if there's one thing we've learned is that young kids are starving for community right now.
They are, yeah. We've talked to some kids, made some personal phone calls, and these children really, not children, but they're young adults. Yeah, they've really needed this connection with humans, this connection and relationship with others that they were lacking because of the fact that now we're told, we need to isolate, we need to separate.
And you might think, well, community isn't important. Let me give you some Bible, because from all of our talks that we would meet at night, we threw Bible in there, right? Because as pastors, that's what we do. Right. And so let me share with you Acts chapter 2, verse 24. And I know that you know this verse, right? And if you don't, let me paint the picture here. The church is starting to explode. The church is starting to move. Right. But let me share with you, verse 42 says, all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper. Like, if there's anything we know how to do, it's to come together as Mexicans. Right? We throw parties for anything.
For anything.
Cinco de Mayo?
Cinco de Mayo.
Party. What do we celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Who knows?
Our dog had a puppy.
Party.
Yeah, party.
The neighbor moved out.
Yeah,
party.
Anything.
Let's party.
Name it. Yeah, let's party. Let's party. When the quarantine's over, we're going to party.
We are, but let's not share with everybody, right?
Right.
We share with the midnight crew. We'll share that with the midnight crew. But we are good at sharing things. And as Mexicans, and sorry for Hispanics, I know you always throw that at me. So sorry if you're watching this and you're not Hispanic.
You might still relate, as sometimes, like even this that we're going through, it trespasses all kind of boundaries, all kind of
cultures, ethnicities,
race and culture, everything. So everybody's feeling the same thing we're feeling right now.
But as Hispanics,
we
are good at getting together.
We are.
We love
rock
it. Right? We if there's an award for throwing parties, it goes to the Hispanics because we know how to party.
Yes.
You can have the carne asada for the first 1-year-old birthday party when the baby doesn't eat, but we still have carne asada, right?
Right.
And so, thinking about community and how well we are as Hispanics, community is so important, right?
Yeah.
It allows us to share. And what the Bible is saying here is, look, it says the believers form a community.
Yeah.
And what we see as the believers, as the disciples are shaping community here, it's let's get together, let's break bread.
Right. And even from the beginning of Jesus' ministry, Jesus decides to select a few that are his inner circle. This becomes his community, the people that he can rely on, that he can confide in. The 12 people that surrounded him at all times. He
knew how important community was.
Exactly.
And so he makes it
an emphasis.
An emphasis, thank you, to build community from the very beginning. If the church is going to work, the church needs to be built on community.
Correct.
And community done the right way. Let me continue here. Look at verse 44. It says, and all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. Wow. Are we doing community right?
Right.
If we're not sharing the things that we have, are we not doing community right?
And that's so important right now in this time.
Right.
Because so people lack things, but we have it, and why aren't we sharing it?
So when we look at community here, right, it's so important that we're doing community correctly. And what you just said is huge, right? Yeah. Because we need to make sure that the right communities are forming. Right. Because we can form bad communities.
You can, You can surround yourself by the wrong people, and they guide you in the wrong way. And that's one of the things that we touched in our lives, right? Our own experiences of how we chose to go with the wrong crowd and how that affected us in our future, right? Since we're little, our parents tell us, birds of a feather flock together, or
in Spanish?
Not directly translated, but dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres.
Because community is so huge, right? And so if there's anything that we've learned, not just in the Bible and in our ministry, it's that community is very important because it plays a big part. And why does it play a big part? Because it helps to reinforce our convictions, right? So think about your friends, your close circle of friends. So let's get out of ministry for a second.
Right.
And let's get into just our lives, because we want this to be applicable for all of us. When you go to work, think about your close friend, your close-knit community here. Who do you allow to influence your life? So I think when we share community, that's really what the base is at what we're trying to get to.
Right.
Who we allow influence our lives.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're allowing bad influences, that's the outcome you're going to have. And one of the things that we went over is, what are you sowing into your life? What seed are you allowing to grow? So if you're sowing a seed of alcoholism, for example, and you keep watering that because of the community that you surround yourself with, guess what's going to bloom?
Exactly. And it takes one. It just takes one.
Yeah.
And that's why community is so important. Who your close community is. And I think we made the emphasis to the point to emphasize that it's not just like your community, your friends. It's anybody, right?
Anybody who can speak into you.
And so it's really important that those that we allow influence us are good people,
right.
are sound people
yeah.
that are speaking life into us, right? And not trying to take away from us.
I think one of the things when we choose community is we have to see whose life is it that I really want my life to look like. Who's down the line, if I choose a mentor, for example, I want that mentor to have gone through things that I have, but come out of it successful, right? You don't want somebody who has gone through it but failed, and now they're suffering the consequences of their failure. I mean, you can learn from that person, but that's not who you want speaking life into you. You want somebody who learned how to get over that hurdle and has come out of it better.
And part of the reason why we got into this topic was because we posed the question. We had some parents on our live that night, and we posed the question of why do some kids stay in church and others leave church?
Right.
And we out of like our 3-hour discussion at midnight going out to 3 o'clock in the morning, we got to, well, it's the community that you form in church. So let me bring this back into church.
Yes.
Think about you and me personally. Why didn't we leave church? Because we had formed good communities in church.
Right.
Now, being a Hispanic, I went to a small church that was made up of just my 50 cousins, right? And my 50 family members. And in that family, I had such great convictions that were being shaped by my parents, being enforced through church, and then by my surrounded cousins that allowed me to stay in church where I am now.
And that's what you always had, though. So you never knew anything outside of that. Yeah, and that's wonderful. But what about people that have come to know something outside of church, like myself? You know, I was brought up in church, and it was a big church, and then my family moved, and I didn't like where we lived, so I decided to join the military. And then I leave my home, I leave my community, the ones that were guiding me in the right direction, and I decide to form my own community. And what did that bring me? You know, then all of a sudden I start acting like somebody who I'm not. I start doing things that I didn't want to do because of the people that I surrounded myself with. And
all it takes is one person.
All it takes is one.
Right. So it's so important that the people that we allow to influence our lives, we got to pick those people wisely.
Yes.
Right. Let's pretend that we have like only 8 seats around us, and who are going to be those 8 people that we put around us.
Right. And one of the things that I had mentioned about that is about Forbes and how they brought out, they did a survey, and they said the 5 people closest to you, or you will be as successful as the 5 people closest to you, those that you allow to speak into you. And if they can see it in a financial way, how can we not see it in a spiritual way?
How can Forbes see it and the Church of God is not seeing it?
Right.
Right? Hey, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful people. And you're like, well, I've heard that before. Yeah, you've heard it, but we haven't done it.
Right.
Because we don't put stock into this concept of community.
We're not investing.
We're not
investing in the wrong places.
Exactly. We're not being intentional in this.
Right.
If the Bible is saying, if Jesus is saying, look, it's so important that the believers form community, but not just any community. It's so important that believers form good communities, healthy communities.
Yes.
And so when we look at our lives growing up, I grew up in church my entire life. Right. You did too.
I grew up as well. Yeah.
Right.
We just had different adventures.
Now our parents though help us with reaching our convictions, right? To teach and to reinforce them, right? And then we go to church on our youth group or whatever, and that reinforces the convictions as well. And then hopefully, if we have the right community around us, they're also shaping our lives.
And they're not, so the shaping begins from the time that you're little.
In the home.
Right, and all of that continues, but who's validating those convictions? You know, if you don't have somebody persistently validating what you believe in, and instead of validating, they're putting you down. That's they're trying to make you think in a different way.
One voice is going to be louder than the others.
Exactly. So who's speaking louder into your life?
Whose voice are you listening to?
Exactly.
Because I wish. Look, we've been youth pastors for about 17 years, right?
Right.
And in that time, we've learned so much. And our prayer is that we could share that with other young kids. What my wife is saying, what we're saying, we learned now in our 30s, right? If we would have learned this, hey, my community matters when I'm 15, 14, 16, my life could be totally different.
We would have made different decisions.
But like you said, when we're 15, 16, 18, 19, nobody knows better than I do.
No, yeah. You think you know it all, and you've seen it all, and you smarter than anyone else.
Now, I'm sure that we made mistakes and we allowed the wrong people into our community. And that really messed us up, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, because you're sowing seeds in whatever you're watering, that's what you're going to grow. So
yeah, I never had really bad influence like that I allowed in my circle. But it's because I had such a great community at the time that wouldn't allow those things into my life, like my relationship with my pastor and my parents. So that helped build community. And then when I went to church, it was reinforced there with my family, my cousins. And so there was never an opportunity for a bad seed to get in. But what about you?
No, I mean, like I shared, I went into the Navy and I decided to choose the wrong relationships, the wrong friendships. And of course that got me out of it, and I started to do things that I didn't want to do. I started to go out partying and drinking, and if you know a little bit of my life, is that I come from a background of alcoholics. So my grandfather died an alcoholic, my father is an alcoholic, and my brother was an alcoholic. He's a recovering alcoholic, thank God. And then I have other people in my family that have become alcoholics. So if I know that that's something that's going to be a problem in my life because it's a generational curse, but it's also genetically transferred, why would I want to allow that into my life? Right. And not just allow it, but keep watering it, allow it to keep growing. And one of the sayings that I love is it's not if it's a sin, it's if it's a seed. Yeah. And if it's a seed, are you allowing it to grow?
That's what the Bible says. We're allowed to do just about whatever we want, but it's beneficial to us.
But not everything is beneficial.
It's not beneficial to us. So we're free to pick our community.
Right.
But how beneficial is that community that we're surrounding ourselves with? And so here's the thing that always gets me. When young adults, we'll bring it back to young adults because that's who we work with, and youth, they're like, well, I'm free to do whatever I want. It has no impact on my life. That's like the worst thing someone can ever say. It has so much, whether we know it or not, we're slowly influenced by the people around us.
Right. And and then people think, oh, well, I can change my friends. Just like I can change my girlfriend or whatever it is.
I will make her a Christian.
I will make her a Christian. I will make them Christians. And I mean, our greatest hope is that you can.
We're not saying it's impossible.
No, but are you strong enough? Or do you have the right community behind you to make that happen? Or, like you were saying, who's speaking louder? Is it those friends or is it...
When you're in your teenage years, look, who's going to speak louder? A girl that you like or the family and the cousins that you have in front of you? Right. Who's going to speak louder? Sadly, sometimes the girl that speaks louder. Yeah. So community is so important. We see that in the Bible. Now, here's why I think that youth ministries struggle with building the right communities. It's because it takes time and commitment. Yeah. It takes a lot of time. And if there's anything that we've learned in these 7 weeks of quarantine, look, we had to make our list of 130 youth that go to our church, and we had to be intentional. We had to break it up and give some names and numbers to our leaders, and we're like, guys, we need help. We want you to help build community because this is what the kids are liking. Look, they're going to get Bible. They're going to get Bible through devotionals, through the Word on Fridays. They're going to get Bible, but they're missing the community aspect.
They are.
Right?
They're missing one-on-one talk, or even group talk,
Yeah, and that's why we created the life groups. Because kids need to talk. When you were on calls, when I was on calls, we were on calls for about 20 minutes with the same student.
Or more.
Because they just needed to pour out their heart, right?
They just needed to be heard.
Exactly. Right. And that's the right community. When we see what the believers here were doing to share everything.
Yes.
Let's not just limit this to, hey, let me share a snack with you, right? Like, give me your chips. No, let's share everything.
Let me share my heart with you.
If we can get to that, if community can be, let's share our hearts. We're winning in communities.
We are, yeah.
Right. In one of our lives, we had a parent with us, and she said, "Look, both of my kids grew up in church. Us as parents, we've been active in church. Their grandparents were active in church, but I have my daughter is super active, and my son, he doesn't want to go.
He lost interest.
He did lose interest.
Yeah.
And we started asking, what? Yes, at the home, the families, the relationships were the same, but what about the outside community? Right. And that's where it really broke down. That's where we were able to get down to the root of the problem, that the outside community was a little bit different, between the two kids.
Who's, like you were saying, whose voice are you allowing to speak louder? Because you can hang out with your friends at church all you want, but then you're spending more time over here with friends, other friends, other relationships that don't guide you, don't reinforce those values.
And one's going to speak louder than the other.
Right.
And so that's why we need to start building communities correctly.
Right.
And if you're doing that, dude, hats off to you. Great job. But let's take a minute here and let's think about intentionally building our communities. Even if you're not a young adult or you're not a part of a youth ministry, you're at work. And you're building community at work. Yeah, you have people you work with, but then like I know, there are people at our work that we allow a certain influence in our lives.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something that transcends just a ministry, a young adults ministry. Because you go to work and you have to build community there.
Yeah, there's relationships there too, and of course then that's when you have to learn to safeguard your heart and yourself, right?
Yeah.
How much of what I hear at work am I going to allow into my life? Yeah. So safeguard your heart, not just at work, but at school, anywhere else, even with an unbelieving family. You safeguard your heart of what you're going to allow out and what you're going to allow in. I
think sadly that some people think I'm not going to allow such and such or so and so person to influence me.
Right.
But when they speak loud enough, and if our convictions aren't strong enough, then we will fall and listen to others.
Right.
Right. That's why Jesus knew and God knew, look, I need my believers to build the right community. Because if I'm gone, they need to be able to do this when I'm not here.
Exactly.
And they're going to need the right community. And we'll get into this in one of our other sessions when we talk about discipling. Jesus knew, look, I need them to be surrounded by the right core of believers, or else once I'm gone, there's going to be a louder voice than what I was able to impart in them, and they're going to fall back.
Yeah, and even as he sent them out into ministry, he sent them out in pairs.
That's right.
Because he knew this person lacks something that this person needs, and they can help each other. Complement each other, exactly. And in the Bible we read that a cord of 3 strands is stronger than one with just one, right? So we know that we are stronger together, and especially when we're all in the same accord. So
this applies to ministry, and that's why we're talking about it. But it also applies outside of ministry. It applies to our regular lives.
Right.
If we want to lose weight, we're going to surround ourselves with people that want to lose weight. We're not going to surround ourselves with people that are going to McDonald's or are going to get donuts every single day.
Right.
Like, we're intentional in some aspects, but then not in the others. Like, if we were intentional about losing weight, the same as like getting closer to God, we find who we allow in our inner circle. I'm not going to surround myself with a bunch of junk food eaters if I want to like get fit more than I am now, right? Like that's not something we do, and we would become so intentional there.
Right.
We're going to find the people that lose weight. We're going to find the workaholics. We're going to find the people that work out all the time. We're going to find those and allow those into our community. Hey, what protein drink should I be drinking?
Right.
Hey, what should I be doing to get rid of the love handles? What should I be doing? We intentionally seek that out.
Yeah.
So why aren't we doing that with our relationship with God, with what matters most?
Right.
Right. So let's find these people that are going to feed into us. So I challenge you to like take a little time out here and see, well, who do I really allow to influence my life? My pastors? My parents?
If you don't have your pastor as your inner community,
then something's wrong.
Yeah.
And we will touch on that in second sessions here, but the pastor needs to be able to influence
a pastor.
Right, a pastor.
If you can't have a good relationship with your pastor at home, then you need a pastor.
Yeah.
You need somebody.
That's a whole nother topic for another day.
That's a whole other topic.
But find out who is in your inner circle and who are you allowing and what kind of words are they speaking into you.
Right.
Sometimes, I think you said it on that live, is that we need to have that spirit of discernment to know, hey, this person really wants what's best for me, or they don't.
Right.
Because not everybody that you surround yourself wants what's best for you.
No.
We've seen in the Bible countless times when people were telling people, hey, like don't speak up, don't call out to God. We see that happening in the Bible, so we know that if it happened there, it happens here.
Right.
People don't want what's best for us.
And if you're having a trouble with discernment, one of the best tools that you can use for discernment is the fruits of the Spirit. Are they showing the fruits of the Spirit? And if they're not, then that's not a person that's not a person you want in your life, because the Bible says that out of the abundance of the heart, your mouth speaks. So are they speaking life? Are they being fruitful in their life? And if they're not, I'm sorry, but that's not the person.
And sometimes we need to cut people out of our circle.
Yeah.
Right? We want to continue to pray for them, but there does come time in our lives where we have to cut these people that are not speaking life into us and don't want what's best for us.
Distance yourself from
exactly.
them.
Continue to pray for them.
Yeah.
Distance yourself from these people.
write them a letter, send them an email,
a text.
A text.
Don't just ghost them, but keep reaching out to them.
You just continue praying for them and ask God to make you a stronger person.
So look, I really hope that you were able to take something from this. Yes, community is important. Yeah. Yes, we've like heard it before, but let's be intentional about the people that we allow to surround ourselves. I know Nancy has a select few people that she allows around herself, myself sometimes. No, I'm kidding. All the time. But like she has people that she listens to, mentors, right? People that feed into her. Right. As do I. I continue to make great relationships, and we allow people into our lives to influence our lives. So let's be intentional with this. And then as pastors and leaders, let's bring it back into ministry. Let's be intentional when we form these ministries, these community groups, to know that, I want you to have a good time, but I also want you to have somebody there that will share things with you, right? Whatever it is. And you can build that relationship, so when you transition out of youth ministry and young adult ministry and into the church and into the workforce, hey, you continue building community because it's so important. And then you allow that community to help shape who you are.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Tonight midnight. This is better because we don't last 3 hours.
Exactly. There's not that much feedback.
Right. There's not feedback. So leave your feedback. Right. Your feedback there. Put your comments there. I'd love to read them, and I will respond to those things. You don't have to agree with me. My pastor always says you have every right to be wrong. So you don't have to agree with me. And I'm gonna steal that line from my pastor. We will continue these conversations because what we notice is that a lot of them kind of like wrap themselves nicely, right?
Yeah.
So next time we will be talking about the heart, and then of course transparency. Like all this fits together in community and heart and transparency. So we'll try to put those together for you guys and try to wrap them up. If you missed any of the videos, go ahead and watch these videos, and then continue to follow us on Instagram. Nancy, I'll put her information there, and you'll see mine right here as well. And go ahead and follow us because we might surprise you with an Instagram live, and I'm sure you'd like to see that at midnight. If you're not asleep, join us at midnight. All right, guys. Hey, we love you guys, and that's why we're doing this, and we really love what we do, and I hope that this can speak to any of you. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, like, ring that bell so that you can get the notification when we drop these.
And share.
Share, don't forget to share, okay? And leave us some comments and we'll respond to them. Hey guys, we love you, we're praying for you guys, and God bless you guys.